The loot box. 5 years ago, they were present in pretty much every game that was released. Whether it was the annual FIFA game, their introduction in Call of Duty, or even their addition into single-player games such as Middle-earth Shadow of War. It's fair to say, they were once unavoidable. Hold up. It's time for a little game, and I like to call it Guess the Game with the Loot Box. Can our first contestant step up to the podium? Right then, sir. Your choices are Middle-earth Shadow of War, Minecraft, or Fortnite.
That's easy. It has to be Fortnite. They must have had them at some point, right?
Unfortunately, sir, that is wrong. There will be no prize for you. The correct answer is Middle-earth Shadow of War.
What? How can a single-player game have loot boxes?
That's the way it is nowadays, sir. But moving on, can we please welcome contestant number 2 to the stage? Alright, sir. Your choices are Fallout 4, Rocket League, or Dark Souls 3.
Okay, this is an easy one. Due to my addiction of Rocket League crate openings, that has to be the right answer.
And the crowd goes absolutely wild. You'll be walking home with 100 quid, sir.
Thank you for fueling my Rocket League crate addiction.
Okay, and finally our final contestant. I'm excited about this one. Everyone give it up for Big Bad Teeth. Alright, Mr. Teeth. Your 3 choices are FIFA 14, FIFA 15, or FIFA 19.
Oh no, the memories. Was it all worth it? 5,000 quid spent to get a team of the day, Harry Kane.
Mr. Teeth, are you sure everything is alright?
I can't believe how much money I've spent on loot boxes. Ranger, please make a video about it. It's the only way I can get over how much money I've spent.
Alright. Enough of this. I'll see what I can do. Loot boxes seem to come out of nowhere, and at a point in time, it really seemed like they would be a staple of gaming. Early on, the gaming community did take to them with a level of acceptance, but as the years went on and more games adopted the system, they came under fire from the gaming community and even some politicians. These glorified versions of gambling were making gaming publishers huge profits and seemed to be going absolutely nowhere. All of a sudden, however, in the last few years we've seen a shift in gaming. Gone are the days of loot boxes being the primary monetization method in games, which seemed unfathomable just half a decade ago. But what caused them to disappear all of a sudden? Was it the pushback from gamers? Was it pressure from politicians? Or did game devs want a classic style of monetization? We'll proceed to pack Ronaldo and grab some popcorn as I look into the rise and inevitable fall of loot boxes. So let's look at the history of the loot box and its rise to popularity. I must preface this by saying I am definitely not the first to speak about this topic here on YouTube, but as someone who used to spend quite large amounts of money on loot boxes, I do feel I can give a different perspective into the topic. The first trace of the loot box as we know it today goes as far back as 2006, where a free-to-play Chinese MMO named ZT Online introduced them. This wasn't mainstream, however, and was not seen much in the West. To a lot of you, it will be no surprise that FIFA was the one to popularise the loot box, particularly in the Western world. It's said that current EA CEO Andrew Wilson was the man who devised the idea to introduce FIFA packs into Ultimate Team. They were used to get new players for your team in a new and exciting way. However, they've been hiding a dark secret all along, because as we'd come to find in later years, they're inherently paid to win. At this point, however, there wasn't much pushback from the community, despite them inherently working against the player to make them buy more. FIFA back then, and still to this day to some extent, was an extreme grind to get coins to improve your team. It was therefore so much easier to just load up some FIFA points and buy some packs. Keep in mind during all of this, that FIFA is a PEGI 3 here in the UK. And these packs, well, I'm not even going to beat around the bush and say it's a debate here. They are a form of gambling. This just shows that even in their inception, in their early days, they had inherent flaws, which were just bound to come crumbling down in the end. It wasn't long before other companies saw the success of the FIFA packs. Within the next 5 years, we had games such as Team Fortress and Call of Duty implement loot boxes into their games, the latter of which is our next important milestone in the history of the loot box. You see, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare introduced supply crates. They contained some cosmetic items, but most importantly, weapon variants with stat boosts. This meant that as supply drops were easier to buy rather than earn, the game technically became pay to win. The development of this formula and this idea of making the game a grind and a chore to play, with the eventual goal of making the player just turn to buying loot boxes. It's important to keep that core concept in mind, because throughout the years, we've seen more egregious systems that continue to develop on that formula would really test how far gamers are willing to go to spend money rather than play the game. To me at the time, I found these supply drops quite enjoyable. I was quite young at the time, and the idea of earning supply drops seemed exciting. However, little did I know it was taking away the ability to grind for these items. I didn't know that in previous COD games, you could simply play the game to get some of these items. More years went on, and games such as Halo had their iterations, and companies were developing them to have a certain level of satisfaction whilst opening them, to ensure players wanted to have more. It was Overwatch that would next release with loot boxes. They were firmly tied to the progression system. And to be fair, out of all the games that had them over the last decade, I would say Overwatch had the best system. I can't quite explain why, but at no point did I feel like I had to buy loot boxes to get items, as I always felt I could earn them eventually. It was in this year, that being 2016, where I felt loot boxes peaked. Whilst they certainly began to have their detractors at this point, including myself, games such as Black Ops 3, FIFA 16, FIFA 17 and Overwatch all proved that loot boxes were immensely popular, and not just in the game itself, but also here on YouTube. Looking back on videos at the time, and we can see the growing subgenre on YouTube of supply drop or pack opening videos. It had been popular in FIFA for a while, with YouTubers such as KSI, one of the many examples of extremely popular YouTubers who had grown from uploading some of these videos. Black Ops 3 popularised this in the Call of Duty community, with YouTubers like Ali A gaining huge numbers and finding huge success through opening large amounts of supply drops. As the impressionable young teenager I was at this time, I would see all these videos and it encouraged me to do the same. Was this my growing gambling addiction, or had I fallen into the trap that the game devs desired? I'll let you decide. All I know is, in recent reports, it's claimed that EA make over $1 billion per year from Ultimate Team modes in their sports games. This can solely be traced back to loot box purchases. Some FIFA YouTubers have even come out and stated in recent years how much money they have spent. Chris MD has previously stated that during the Team of the Year period in FIFA, he spent thousands. Obviously to them, it's part of their job, and they can somewhat earn this money back by uploading the video. But it does encourage kids to begin to purchase large amounts of FIFA packs to replicate the same enjoyment seen in the videos. And thus, all good things have to come to an end at some point, and this was the fuel that a later controversy would ignite that would lead to the demise of the loot box. The downfall of loot boxes was inevitable. I had grown up at this point, and I understood how anti-player loot boxes could be. The gaming community as a whole, in fact, longed for the days of being able to earn items rather than them being a random slot machine. This brings us to the next and most important milestone in the journey of loot boxes, which is certainly Star Wars Battlefront 2. Where do I even begin here? When the game released, the whole progression system and unlockables such as the iconic characters we grew up watching were designed to be a huge grind. This heavily encourages the player to instead purchase loot boxes. It was at this point, however, that the community had completely lost faith in EA, and the pushback finally caused EA to remove the loot boxes from the game entirely and lessen the grind as a result. It was at this time as well where real-life implications for loot boxes were about to take place. Places such as Hawaii and Belgium both considered removing loot boxes entirely, with Belgium passing the law in 2019. This was an important step in ensuring they aren't in future games, as it made the market for them that bit smaller. The most notable game impacted would probably be FIFA. The FIFA points used to buy packs were outright banned in Belgium, and has caused EA Sports to now show probabilities in their packs. But let's be real, FIFA is still pay to win. In 2017, we would also see PUBG introduce loot boxes, despite their game being in early access and literally unplayable at times on console. I mean, what the actual fuck even is this? And this had loot boxes. As we moved into 2019, we would see another spark to ignite the downfall of the loot box. Activision thought it would be a great idea to put loot boxes in Black Ops 4, despite the game already containing an item shop and a battle pass, and being £60 on release. Once again though, community pushback finally prevailed, and despite it being heavily rumoured to be in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it would seem Activision changed their plans and switched to the more contemporary battle pass and item store that Fortnite introduced. That was the last time we ever saw loot boxes in Call of Duty, and I just can't see it ever happening again. And I almost forgot to mention, that game that you may have heard of called, well, Fortnite? Well, that was another huge contributor towards us saying goodbye to loot boxes. They popularised the idea of the battle pass, which eventually made its way into all the games I've mentioned in this video. Call of Duty, Halo, and even FIFA has one, despite also selling packs. Oh FIFA, you can never change, can you?
Is this good for the player? Is this good for the player? Is this good for the player?
With all the controversies and community pushback, it made so much more sense for game devs and publishers to want to switch to this new model and wave goodbye to a trend that left destruction over the last decade. But where does that leave us now? Well, off the top of my head, the only current game I can think of that contains some form of loot box would be FIFA. And maybe CSGO, which now I look back, was another game in the long list of loot boxes. But if I tried to mention all of them, I would be here for a very, very long time. I will end this video by answering the most important question ever posed in the history of mankind, and that is this good for the player? Well, for a short period of time, loot boxes may have actually been good for the player. That dopamine rush of getting the HBAR3 insanity back in the day was like nothing I'd ever experienced. Or that time I packed Messi on FIFA and I began hyperventilating. Now I'm sure most of you have had a similar experience. Whether it's going crazy over FIFA like me, or getting that new CSGO knife. But as these developers realised that us as humans are becoming more and more reliant on that sweet, sweet hit of dopamine, they began to see the dollar signs. Because for all the packs on FIFA that told me it was worth it, I had still lost hundreds trying to get that pack. There will be a new game next year, and my coins were worthless. And do I even need to mention that these systems were quite literally gambling? So Mr. Wilson, I present to you why loot boxes might not be as good for the player as you seem to think. It's for that reason why loot boxes get a 1 out of 100 for me. That one, it's a thank you to you, Mr. Wilson. You gave me Messi in a pack a few years ago, and for that, I am forever grateful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the rise and inevitable fall of loot boxes. Hopefully I was finally able to answer the question,
Is this good for the player?
More content will be coming soon. And remember, if you like the video, I can 100% guarantee that you will pack Messi the next time that you play FIFA.